Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad you're with us for the Thursday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We have good, and crazy martinis for you today. The first one's a little bit complicated, but let's jump into it. You may remember that Marco Rubio was confirmed as Secretary of State on Monday, just hours after President Trump was inaugurated. And since then, the Senate has confirmed 0 of Trump's nominees. That's because Democrats are trying to slow play the confirmation process. Usually once it's reported out of committee, pretty much goes to a cloture vote and then a final vote. But Democrats are objecting to that process, and that means we're going to get hours and hours of debate on these nominees, especially on the ones they really don't like. But they're doing it with all the nominees except for Rubio, including John Ratcliffe, who made it out of committee by a 14-3 vote. And so that did not sit well with the Intel Committee Chairman Tom Cotton, nor does it sit well with the new Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who says, Democrats, all right, you want to play it this way? We'll play it this way.
Okay, so 14-3 coming out of the committee. And we've now wasted a whole day where we could have been acting on that nomination. And so really, I think the question before the House is, do we want to vote on these folks on Tuesday or vote on them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Because that's what we're going to do. This can be easy or this can be hard. This is a nominee that came out of the Intelligence Committee 14-3. It is a bipartisan nomination to the Central Intelligence Agency. This is about America's national security interests. And we're stalling. So that's not going to happen. We're going to file cloture on them. You can force us to staying around here, and we can vote on these things Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But we're going to vote on them.
Yeah, you're not going to run out the clock. And so, Jim, good for John Thune playing hardball as best as he can under the rules of the Senate. And so hopefully not only Ratcliffe, but a lot of these other folks will be on the job soon, because the way the Democrats would have it, it would be weeks before they get there.
You know, Greg, I would remind the senators from Pennsylvania, Maryland, as well as Missouri, and for that matter, I guess you could even, Kansas, even though it's not really an issue, and New York. The conference championship games are on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. So if you want to have the votes then, we can have the votes then. You can miss the game. Trip to the Super Bowl is at stake. You guys want to play it this way, we can do that. A little bit tongue-in-cheek here, but the point on Ratcliffe is a particularly vivid one. If you have objections to a nominee, the hearing is the right time to air them, and the right time to... Look, we all understand there are 53 right. Everybody's sworn in. Everybody's where they should be. 53 Republican senators, 47 Democrats. Democrats by themselves will not have the votes to stop any of them unless they can persuade 3 Republican colleagues. Actually, really 4, because Vance would break the tie. By the way, interesting report that apparently there were 3 Republicans who were skeptical of Hegseth, so maybe J.D. Vance will get an early tie-breaking role there. We'll have to wait and see. But look, these guys are going to get confirmed. So the question is, do you want to play these kinds of games and delay it by a week, delay it by 2 weeks? I also, by the way, happen to notice there isn't, am I correct, Greg, that there isn't a hearing yet scheduled for RFK Jr.?
I haven't seen one yet.
Look, a bunch of these guys they're able to do before January 20th. And the ones who are least controversial, the ones where there's the broadest bipartisan consensus, you can do them that first day. But we really kind of expected to get them in the days of following. And again, I remember back in the first Trump term, Kirsten Gillibrand from New York, home of the Buffalo Bills, in case you got any plans for the weekend, Senator Gillibrand, proudly voted against every single Trump nominee, including Secretary of Defense nominee James Mattis, which seemed kind of ridiculous. And that when she chose to run for president, she thought that was going to impress people. And the general response was, please get out of my way. I just want some ranch dressing. And that is... So, what's your job here? And you want to vote no, that's fine. But, let them have the vote. Stop playing these sorts of games. Look, there's a job to do. Delaying these nominees isn't actually going to change anything in the long run. It's just petty. Thune has exactly the right attitude. And I should just remind them how many people in these states want to watch that and would like to, how many senators would like to watch their teams on Sunday or any other events they have going on Friday or Saturday or anything like that. Schedule them for 3 a.m. tonight if you want. Just do whatever you have to do to say, hey, we got work to do, guys. Let's chop. Let's go.
Exactly. Around the clock, and then wake up Chuck Grassley when you need his vote.
Yes.
So don't make him stay up all night. Yeah, Jim, it reminds me of my personal favorite Kurt Russell role in Miracle, the story of the Miracle on Ice. I know most people would say Escape from New York and so forth, but nonetheless, there's that exhibition game before the Olympics. They're in Norway, and the players are kind of looking at the girls in the stands, and they're loafing on the ice. And he says, okay, you guys didn't want to work during the game? We'll work now. And he makes them run those suicides back and forth, and again. And that's what John Thune is doing to the Democrats. Good for him. All right, Jim, on to our next Good Martini now. And as a lot of folks know, there's been a pile of executive orders, most of them warmly received on the right, others a little more controversial. But this one's definitely good. And it's reported by Adam Credo over at the Free Beacon. The Trump administration finalized an executive order that redesignates the Iran-backed Houthi rebels as a foreign terrorist organization. The administration readied the order Wednesday afternoon, and President Donald Trump signed it just past 5 p.m. The order fully restores tough American sanctions on the Yemen-based terror group that the Biden administration lifted in 2021. Trump added the Houthis to America's foreign terrorist organization list in the waning days of his first administration, but the Biden White House reversed the move amid efforts to ease diplomatic tensions with Iran. The Biden administration did redesignate the Houthis as a specially designated global terrorist outfit last January when the Houthis launched a wave of attacks on global shipping vessels. While that designation does provide for sanctions, it is less severe than an FTO designation, which carries criminal penalties for anyone caught providing material support to the terror outfit in question. So the Biden version is the tisk-tisk version of the sanctions, Jim, and the FTO are the serious ones, especially if you enforce them. And so this is kind of a no-brainer when they're attacking ships, and I think they're involved in attacking our own people, our own forces over there. So good for Trump on this no-brainer.
So first of all, Greg, I want to thank you for citing the reporting of Adam Credo at the Free Beacon. Easily the second best item written about this in the last 24 hours since I wrote all about this in the Morning Jolt. But that's fine. That's okay. Look, this is a twofer. It no longer says to the Houthis, we see you as a terrorist organization. You're no longer special. You're not on the special list of terror. You're just another group of terrorists to us. But a bit more seriously, the Biden administration came into office, was very angry at the Saudi Arabians over the killing of Khashoggi, and decided that they were going to cease certain arms sales to the Saudis that they were using in the Yemeni civil war, and also they took the Houthis off the terrorist list. Now, you could even see between the lines in Blinken's statement making that designation back in 2021, that, like, look, we know that these guys are still some pretty bad guys, but we're hoping this will be a step towards peace and conciliation and things to get better. Spoiler alert, they did not get better. And not only did the Houthis effectively shut down almost all trade through the Red Sea. At one point, it was like 90% of the ships were going around the Horn of Africa, with one exception. Chinese flagships. There was a state-owned Chinese shipping company that they were hunky-dory with, the axis of you-know-whats, the axis of the devils, which everyone, all of our enemies are willing to scratch each other's back and help each other out when the opportunity arises. So the Houthis were not going to attack that. Now, some ironic developments on this. On Monday, I guess technically it was late Sunday night, but Monday, the Houthis announced that in light of the Hamas-Israel ceasefire agreement, they were no longer going to keep shooting at U.S.-flagged vessels or British-flagged vessels. They still said they're still going to fire at Israeli-flagged vessels. This obviously, and also they released one of the crews that they had taken hostage early on during this crisis. Trump was apparently not impressed. That is not. This isn't quite the Iranians releasing the hostages as soon as Reagan gets into office, but there is kind of this sense, new sheriff in town. Okay, we're going to have a slightly different tone here and see if this wins us any brownie points. It does not. What's more, the executive order basically says that the State Department and U.S. Agency for International Development are to review all contracts with all groups through the United Nations, through any kind of international aid groups, relief groups, humanitarian organizations, and basically say, A, are they working with the Houthis? Or B, this is what sounds very Trumpian, have they criticized U.S. operations against the Houthis? And if so, all contracts are canceled and the U.S. will no longer be giving any. By the way, we gave as of May of last year, we had sent $220 million in additional aid just that year to Yemen. There's some question about whether it really is going to Yemeni orphans and widows and the people who are starving and impoverished over there, or whether some of it's going to the government, or whether it's being distributed with the cooperation of the Houthi government. Either way, it's a very fair question that why we would be helping this. And I also pointed, this is just one last thing, just kind of drives me crazy. Middle of last year, the Associated Press, who we sometimes give grief to, but they did some excellent reporting, from the USS Laboon in the Red Sea. And they said, quote, "This is the most intense running sea battle the U.S. Navy has faced since World War II." Now, that's the sort of thing you would think people would sit up and take notice. I wrote about it, certain other folks, and like a small segment of either conservative or like diehard wonky foreign policy types paid attention to this. Broad American public did not pay any attention to it at all. And both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden on the campaign trail bragged that no U.S. troops were in combat right now, which was probably news to everybody in the U.S. Navy in the Red Sea, who were getting drones and missiles and all kinds of stuff fired at them on a regular basis in the Red Sea. So, the U.S. was effectively at war in the Red Sea against the Houthis, and large chunks of America didn't notice, and the president and vice president acted like it wasn't happening. And I just found that stunning, an absolute dereliction of. I don't know whether this was like an attempt to Jedi mind trick people into not noticing or to discourage the media from covering it. But look, the Houthis have been our enemies. They have acted like our enemies. They have shut down world shipping, targeted innocent people. And finally, the U.S. government has a policy that recognizes this and acts upon it.
Apparently, talking about the Houthis and the mayhem they're causing is kind of like homelessness. It only gets covered when a Republican is president.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, money that gets sent to humanitarian organizations under the flag of an organization that also does terrorism. I think we know where that money is going. By the way, my morning jolt showed up while we were recording in my defense, but definitely read that first. Definitely read that first. And if you want to read Adam Credo, you can do that too. But
he's good too. He's fine.
Nothing's going to take the smile off Jim's face today. The Jets got a good head coach, and hope springs eternal. So
may every team with a former Detroit Lions coordinator succeed in the years to come.
That would be yours and mine. Yes. Apparently, this is the first time in ages that Lions coordinators have been given head coaching jobs. So we'll see how that all works out.
Now the Hollywood liberals are obsessed about looting. The Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski. Every day, Chris helps unpack the connection between politics and the economy and how it affects your wallet. Some of the Hollywood elites have threatened to shoot people who loot their property. Where were they during the George Floyd riots? Celine Dion didn't mind looting during Hurricane Katrina because it wasn't her stuff. Whether it's happening in D.C. or down on Wall Street, it's affecting you financially. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
All right, Jim, let's go to our crazy martini now. And for that, we bring in former CIA Director John Brennan. He held that role in the second 4 years of the Obama administration. He was one of the 51 intel experts who signed that famed letter or infamous letter in the later stages of the 2020 campaign saying the Hunter Biden laptop information, especially as it related to Hunter Biden's business dealings and implicating Joe and all that stuff, all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. In fact, Trump brought it up in their second and final debate, and Joe Biden referred to that letter on the debate stage as proof that the report was bogus.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
And so, Jim, the New York Post originally did that story. Twitter, then under the control of Jack Dorsey, shut that down. Same thing on other social media sites. The story was absolutely squelched. Well, we've learned since then that, oh yeah, the Hunter Biden laptop is totally legit, and what was reported in that story from the New York Post is also legit. Well, as a result, in one of his executive orders, President Trump removed the security clearances that these 51 people had, plus John Bolton. 2 of them are dead, so they were not technically on the list. But then over on MSNBC, here's John Brennan trying to spin his way out of this loss of his clearance.
As you point out, he misrepresented the facts in that executive order because it said that we had suggested that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. No, we said it was or the hallmarks of Russian information operations, including the dumping of accurate information, which is what we said in that letter. So again, this was just, his effort to try to get back at those individuals who have criticized him openly and publicly in the past, and I think very legitimately.
Nice try, Mr. Brennan. Jim, what do you make of this effort to rewrite history?
Well, first of all, Greg, just on that Biden clip you played, national security folks, is that a formal title? Does that go on the business card? Just okay. And I think Brennan would have an easier time if he had claimed that when they said it had all the hallmarks of being Russian disinformation, they meant greeting cards. So I want to tie this into two other developments. Some people didn't believe Brennan from the beginning. And it always seemed a little weirdly specific that Russia would, come out and say, aha, we know what we're going to do. We're going to make up pictures of Hunter Biden smoking crack and hanging out with prostitutes and being involved in all of these shady activities. But when you have a security clearance, when you've been in one of these jobs, national security folks, as the former president characterized it, we on the outside who don't have a security clearance kind of assume you know more than we do, that you know secrets, that you have access to classified information that illuminates the world in a way that makes you see things clearer. And I can think of two very recent examples. Adam Schiff saying that there was evidence of Trump colluding with the Russians. And throughout the Mueller report, throughout the impeachment, we kept waiting to see this. But to this day, Schiff insists there's a ton of evidence. We just can't see it. And it's magic. It's, don't look at that man behind the curtain or something like that. The other one, tying into a much more recent controversy, Congressman Michael Turner is no longer the House Intelligence Committee chairman. Apparently, he says, Mike Johnson said, Trump's making me do this. Johnson came out and said no. I don't know. I don't have a huge axe to grind against Michael Turner, but I do remember way back in February of last year, he hinted about this, some sort of really major threat from Russia, and that he wanted an emergency meeting on this. And everybody was like, "Holy, is Russia going to go nuclear in Ukraine?" He was very vague about it, and everybody was like, "Holy smokes! What this guy sees something that's got him freaking out." Well, it turned out Russia apparently is preparing a satellite weapon. They would detonate a nuclear weapon in space, and that would take out a whole bunch of satellites and have really bad effects for U.S. communication. Don't get me wrong, that's bad. But he really made it sound like there was some sort of ticking clock that you and we'd all just stepped into a season of 24 or something like that. And once we found out what it was kind of like, dude, I'm not going to say you had the biggest false alarm of the year because was it Jamal Bowman who had done that, the biggest false of the
the fire alarm, yeah.
Fire alarm. But this did seem like overhyping. And when you're chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and you seem concerned, everybody else's insurance rates go up. Everybody's like, smoke. What's he worried about? What does he know that the rest of us don't? So for Brennan and all these other ones, some of us never trusted you, but people trust you, which means you really have to be careful about this. And you should not go around saying things that you do not know for certain to be true. You have to choose your words carefully. If Brennan had said, I have no information on whether this on the Biden laptop is accurate or not, but it sounds to me this is fishy, you're like, we'd be much less a deal. But what he and these 50 others did is they said, based on our status as former directors of the Central Intelligence Agency and members of the intelligence community and national security folks, we, based on us, we think it's not true. But it turned out to be true. It is, as much as the mainstream media publications denouncing the lab leak as a crazy conspiracy theory, but it increasingly does not appear to be the case. When people stake their credibility on something, and then they turn out to be wrong, there are big, serious consequences of it. So nobody, you see that? That is the world's smallest violin playing for John Brennan. So, look, these are the consequences. He made the decision to stake his credibility on this. At minimum, he should have left more wiggle room for this to turn out to be true. It turned out to be true. And now these are the consequences. If you have a security clearance, choose your words carefully. Don't run around misleading people. And also don't pull the fire alarms.
Yes, that too. Elsewhere in that clip that we didn't have there, he's like, well, now they can't call me in and have me consult with me fully understanding what's happening in the world. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't bother me. John Brennan not being brought in to consult.
I don't think Ratcliffe has him on speed dial, and not likely for Gabbard either, to be honest. Yeah. So.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. Anyway, Jim, have a great day. Enjoy your new coach. The Bears are certainly enjoying theirs, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please subscribe to the podcast, both on your favorite platform as well on YouTube. Also, thanks for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. And breaking news, I am now at Greg Corombos on X. Yeah.
Game changer. All right.
Yeah. Huge. I should point out, though, it's the same account. So if you followed me at the old handle, you'll still follow me at the new handle. But it is now for those who want to start following me at Greg Corombos. Have a great Thursday. Join us again on Friday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.